civilized to bring a place or people to a stage of social, cultural, and moral development considered to be more advanced, enlightened, improved, educated, refined, socialized, humanized. Dogma is a principle or a set of principles laid down by an authority uncontrollably true. It serves as part of a primary basis of an ideology or belief system. It cannot be changed without affecting the very system's paradigm. I grew up in a very interesting kind of household, or households, plural. I am a child of a mother who is schizophrenic. From the beginning, my life was fairly unpredictable, and I craved what I thought was normalcy. I was a vegetarian before people knew what vegetarian was, before it was mainstream. My mother, my father, and my stepfather were all vegetarians. My mother and my stepfather were exploring different religions such as Buddhism and Hinduism, and we practiced yoga and Tai Chi. In particular, my stepfather practiced Tai Chi. I never quite got the hang of it. Yoga was my thing. And on Sundays, we worshiped, but not at the typical church of the time. It was at the Center for Self-Realization, a center or a number of centers established by Paramahansa Yogananda. And we learned the teachings of Jesus Christ, as well as Lord Krishna and other East Asian avatars, prophets, deities, or whatever you would call them. And my mother also followed a guru, Sata Karsanji, and was active in the Meher Baba collective in Berkeley. We would meet and worship on Sundays as well. So we had a different kind of worship. Instead of praying, we would meditate and do chants. One of them was Om. You may have heard of that one. The other one was Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. I still have no idea what that means to this day. But that was my time with my mother. She was exploring her spirituality, and I was along for the ride. My father, however, was an adamant atheist. He did not like that I believed in any type of God or deity, and constantly challenged me about the teachings I came across. And so I had both types of thought thought in both sides of my ears, one spiritual and open to different paths to God, and the other in complete disbelief that God exists or any type of higher power worth giving gratitude exists. And so begins my story and my relationship to religion and spirituality and the idea that you don't have to believe in anything at all. There are a few strange things that happened as I was growing up that remain unexplained. In particular, when I was 5, I somehow fell out, if you want to call it that. I fell out of my 1970 Volkswagen Beetle, and you should know that that's a 2-door car, and I was in the back seat, and this was back before you had to wear your seatbelt. But it would be very difficult for me to fall out without someone noticing, particularly since my father and my mother were in the car. Actually, my stepfather. I looked around. The car basically had gone. I had fallen into the street. I have no memory of the actual fall, just that the car had disappeared, and I was still sitting like I was still in my seat. Luckily, I had been dropped off right in front of my mother's employer and recognized where I was and just walked over to the grocery store. And she had to turn around and come back off the freeway. They didn't even realize what happened. They didn't hear a door open or close or a thud or anything strange. They just realized I wasn't in the back seat anymore. I don't know if it means anything, but it's the strangest thing. It happened. And other weird things happened to me, but that's the weirdest. Fast forward, my mom gets diagnosed, and I wind up living with my grandmother. Things get more traditional. Or actually, traditional for maybe a white family, since my grandmother and her grandparents are devout Lutherans. And so I got baptized in a Lutheran church, did Holy Communion, catechism so that I could take Holy Communion. And I learned the New Testament very well as all the prayers like the Lord's Prayer and the Nicene Creed and the Ten Commandments and all the other things I had to learn before I took Holy Communion. There aren't very many African American people in the church. There's about 6, 7, 8 of us. And so it wasn't a great place for me socially.
I digress. It wasn't a great place for me socially, mostly because there are no young people there. It really wasn't about color. We did have a youth group, and it was quite diverse, which I always prefer diversity to a monoracial type of group. But that was only for special occasions. So socially, I was going to this church that was quite old in character as far as the people, and quite Nordic as far as the demographics. So I can sing Stille Nacht, Holiday Night, in German, Silent Night. But I don't know many gospel songs, so that set me apart from other black kids at school. And I went to school in Oakland. my upbringing was quite... So, most of my life I spent being a peculiar kid, and all I wanted was to be normal and someone who was part of the crowd, who didn't stick out, but there was always something that made me stand out. And when I didn't stand out, I would make myself stand out eventually when I got bored. So, that's my religious background.
And then next comes me in adulthood, becoming a mother and making the decision that I want to pass this religion on to my children, Christianity, and having a number of conversations with my father and other people who don't believe. I realize that sometimes they...
Atheists just seemed to know the Bible better than many Christians did, and I needed to get to know the Bible better. So I decided to read it cover to cover. Yeah.
And in doing this, I began the spiral, so to speak. This is where I started losing my religion. I was seeing all kinds of strange things going on in the Old Testament. We hardly touched it in church. Ancestral relationships, women being blamed for...
A total lack of forgiveness, a total lack of tolerance, in fact, downright prejudice. Something that was very much against my core considering my background. A lack of compassion on behalf of God the Creator. I'll stop right here for today. So that's basically the beginnings of my upbringing in regards to religion and spirituality. And I just wanted to be honest about where I came from, and I have a lot more to say about that. But for now, I bow to the divine in you. Have a wonderful day.